Hello, and happy 4th of July to my fellow Americans. It's not the 4th while I'm filming this, but it'll be the 4th when I post it. I've got something very special today, since, kind of getting into the patriotic holiday spirit type thing, I've got a war cake. Now, this particular war cake isn't from World War II, it's from World War I. And the recipe I got from a cookbook I have called Mama's in the Kitchen, Weird and Wonderful Home Cooking, 1900 to 1950. So this actually isn't like from any era, this book. It just collects old recipes that are from old eras. And the thing about this recipe, war cake, it's kind of timeless. Even though this particular version came from World War I found a lot of similar recipes online for World War II and even from the Civil War. So this is an old recipe with different variations and whatnot, and it definitely predates World War II. Basically what a war cake is it's a cake that has either brown sugar or corn syrup or honey or some other alternative sweetener as opposed to regular white sugar. And usually it'll have shortening or margarine instead of butter. And sometimes it'll even be eggless and milkless as well. Now, during World War I, in America, we rationed eggs. We did not ration eggs during World War II. So if you want more of a World War II era one, it could be possible to include eggs and have it still be authentic. But also keep in mind that in the UK, eggs were still rationed during World War II. So either way, either including or excluding the eggs, it'll be authentic for World War I or World War II. So the first step, I've got my oven preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I've got 1 3/4 cups water going into a pan. I've got 1 cup of brown sugar. Woo! Splashed a little there. I've got 1/2 cup of shortening because of the whole no butter thing. And I've got 1 cup of raisins here. Now, this recipe says it calls for citron as well, but I didn't have citron, and I didn't want to go buy citron just for this recipe, and none of the other recipes I found for war cake type things have included citron. Most of them just have raisins as like the only fruit. So I think it's just as authentic omitting the citron, if not more authentic, because most war cake recipes didn't include it in the first place. Alright, 1 teaspoon nutmeg. 1 teaspoon cinnamon. Then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So we're gonna get this boiling, all right? And we're gonna let it boil for about 3 minutes. All right, it's been boiling for about 3 minutes, so now we're removing it from the heat. It has to cool off before we can add the rest of the ingredients. And I forgot to mention while I was doing my long-ass intro talking about the history of war cakes, I'm actually concurrently filming 2 videos. So, after this one, you won't have to wait like 3 months or whatever it was for the next one. It'll be next week. But that being said, after the next video, who knows how long it'll take. Hopefully not as long, but that's what I said last time too. Sorry. This is a hobby for me. If it felt like an obligation, I'd be doing it like every week. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to like force it. Alright. Alright, it has cooled off, so now I'm going to add 2 cups of flour and 5 teaspoons of baking powder that I have sifted. Now, 5 teaspoons seems like a lot until you remember that it's being used as an egg substitute. And for that matter, this recipe, since it's eggless and milkless, would be great for vegan people. And it doesn't have honey as the sugar substitute either. It has brown sugar, which isn't really a sugar substitute, but it's a substitute for traditional white sugar. So, we add this to our saucepan. Ooh, that's getting a little full. I'm gonna start mixing before I add the rest. Oh man, this whisk sucks. But my slightly less sucky whisk kinda got destroyed in the dishwasher. So, I mean, I guess this is something that's worth investing a little bit of money into, a good whisk. I mean, it can't cost that much, right? And it would be a huge help. So once this is all mixed up, which is hard to do one-handed because I'm holding my phone, I'm going to transfer it into a pan that, I don't believe it, let me check. Yeah, it doesn't have to be greased, the pan doesn't, and I'm gonna bake it for 45 minutes. Alright, I'm gonna put my phone down now so that I can mix this a little better. Looks much better than it did the last time you saw it, right? The batter does. So now I'm gonna pop it in the oven for about 45 minutes. Well, not about, but exactly 45 minutes. And in the meantime, I'll go shoot that other video I was talking about. Alright, see y'all soon. Alright, the moment of judgment. It's actually been sitting out for a few minutes, cooling. It smells really good. I think it's gonna taste good too. We'll see. I guess I can't really cut into it one-handed while I'm holding the camera. Well, I guess we'll see. Feels really soft. I hope it's cooked all the way through. I mean, the center isn't raw. I guess it's just supposed to be a really soft cake. Or maybe it just hasn't sat out long enough. Alright, let's see how it tastes. I mean, yeah, it tastes fine. Nothing to write home about, though. It's, definitely less sweet than most of the desserts that we're accustomed to. I think because of the brown sugar instead of white sugar. I wonder how one of the, desserts that uses honey or corn syrup as a sugar replacement would compare. Could be an interesting thing to try. Basically, the moral of the story is, during the war, with the sugar shortages, both World War I and World War II, because sugar was rationed during both, people had to get accustomed to slightly less sweet desserts. That is the moral of the story. It tastes fine, though. It's just not as sweet as a lot of the desserts that I'm used to. And, some sweetness could probably be added if I used icing like it suggested, but I think, thinking about this realistically, would the 1940s housewife want to use the egg, the sugar, etc., to make the icing? Because, back then a lot of the icings did use egg whites. People were eating raw egg whites back then because they weren't freaked out about salmonella like we are now. I don't know if it's because they just didn't know about it. Probably. But yeah, legit. If you go back in 1940s cookbooks, you will see a lot of the icing recipes use raw egg whites that have just been beaten to a peak. And then there's all kinds of other stuff that we don't eat anymore, like cow brains and stuff, But, yeah. I mean, when people were literally eating calf brains, I don't think that the fact that they were eating raw egg whites is anywhere near as bad, but still lots of weird stuff that we don't eat these days very much, or at all. Anyway, I am rambling, so I'm gonna leave this video here. Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day to those of you who are in the US. If you're not in the US, sorry, I love you still. Yeah, I just figured, you can't get too much more patriotic than a war cake. So that's why I chose this today. Alright, see y'all later.